Hello, Viewpoint Recaps here. Today, we'll talk about a 1980 adventure romance movie called The Blue Lagoon. Before we start, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you dig the summary. Son Richard and niece Emmeline after seeing them play at a dangerous part of the ship. The film starts with a family cruising towards San Francisco. Arthur calls his not long after that. Em gets some information about her guardians and assuming they are returning. Arthur lets the young lady know that her folks are in paradise and that she will meet them sometime in the future. In a little while, Richard and Em enter Paddy's room while he is in the middle of cooking in the kitchen. Richard discovers some loops, and Em goes along with him to slobber over the photographs. Paddy gets the youngsters in the demonstration and rebuffs them. The discipline gets hindered after a fire breaks out in the boat. As the alarms sound, individuals start to alarm. Paddy takes the kids and sheets a raft with them. All through the disarray, Richard and Em get isolated from Arthur. Along with Paddy, they think of themselves as abandoned with no food and water in the sea. One morning, Em awakens and sees an island somewhere out there. She fills Paddy and Richard in about it, and the two of them get energized. Paddy rapidly cruises the boat towards the island furthermore, burns through no time investigating it when they show up. The three castaways track down food to eat and fresh water to drink. While Paddy and Richard play by the stream, Em finds a barrel loaded with rum. She informs Paddy, and he joyfully examines the merchandise. Not long after that, Richard goes along with them and shows a human skull to Paddy, so they leave the spot in a rush. While watching out for boats, Em places a few berries in her mouth. Paddy makes her speak the berries and tells her that they are noxious. The three then take cover close to the coastline also, desire to be saved one day. As time elapses by, the three castaways remain on the island without indications of being protected. Paddy shows the youngsters abilities they need to get by on the island. One evening, Paddy hears peculiar clamors coming from the opposite side of the island. In the first part of the day, Paddy tracks the region where the sound was coming from and finds a stone with meat put on it. Understanding that something risky occurred in the region, he rapidly runs back to shore. Afterward that evening, he makes the two kids guarantee that they won't ever visit that side of the island. Paddy gets intoxicated one night subsequent to going a little overboard on an excess of rum. He hits the dance floor with the youngsters by the fire pit and ultimately nods off. At the point when he awakens the following day, he takes his rum barrel and goes for a morning swim. In no way like a decent morning activity to shake off a headache. At the point when the kids awaken, they search for Paddy and see him lying at the far-off ocean side. They take the boat and go to him. However, discover that he's as of now dead. Alarmed by what has been going on with their dad figure, Em tells Richard they ought to leave. The two youngsters pack every one of their assets on the boat and search for one more island to get comfortable. Utilizing the abilities that Paddy shown them, the kids make do by themselves. Time elapses by, and the two in the end grow up into youthful grown-ups. Following quite a while of living on the island, Richard and Emmeline have fabricated their own home. They invest the vast majority of their energy gathering food and building things that make their island life more advantageous. Actually, the two have developed. However, they're both still honest youngsters on a fundamental level. That is apparent in their disarray about the numerous changes occurring inside and outside their bodies. One day while Em is swimming, she takes note blood in the water and shouts for Richard. Before he shows up, that's what Em finds the blood is coming from her body. She's on her most memorable period and doesn't know anything about it. At the point when Richard shows up and attempts to help her, she advises him to leave. Great thing there were no sharks close by. Richard gets some information about the draining later, and she lets him know that she doesn't know anything. Richard then inquires as to whether he can investigate her body for cuts that cause the dying. However, she denies the solicitation. Richard ends up being angry at Em for keeping insider facts from him and lets her be. Since she's drawn to him, Aim can't keep her eyes off Richard. He sees this and contemplates whether she is debilitated. Richard additionally tells Aim not to give anything ailment she needs to him. Past the point of no return. You as of now have it. What's more, it's called Sweet Home Alabama. A couple of evenings later, Richard and Aim hear unusual drumming sounds. The two attempt to sort out who's uttering the sound. Aim then, at that point, asks what they'll do if the one making the sounds comes to hurt them. Richard says he'll stick the man and kill him, assuming that at any point occurs. One night, Richard sees Emmeline washing by the sea. He gets entranced by her magnificence and bends. Incapable to oppose the chance to get nearer to his cousin, he joins her for a shining swim. She cheerfully invites him, and the two appreciate every other's organization that night. Abnormal. The following day, Aim goes to the opposite side of the island to search for where the drumming sounds were coming from. After a short journey, she finds a monster rock design. She then sees blood emerging from it and gets alarmed. Perhaps it's having a period as well. The terrified Aim runs back to their home. Furthermore, lets Richard know what occurred. She accepts that the model is God. Also, they ought to take care of business. Richard lashes out and cautions her not to visit that place once more. One night from that point forward, Aim has a bad dream about Richard suffocating in the ocean subsequent to eating the noxious red berries. At the point when she awakens, she makes Richard vow to never leave her. After he makes the commitment, the two kiss one another. Perhaps they're exceptionally far off cousins, like fifth cousin once eliminated or something like that. Definitely gives up with that. Richard then attempts to score. However, Aim denies him. Reluctant to acknowledge route, Richard takes a stab at contacting Aim while she dozes. She awakens and tells him to disappear. TSK. You can't win them all. Broski, frustrated with how she treated him, Richard disregards Aim for the following couple of days. One bright day, Richard sees a boat cruising close to their island. He runs back to their house as fast as could really be expected, wanting to light their sign fire on time. While that occurs, Aim sees the boat as well, yet she doesn't even try to get the fire going. At the point when Richard shows up and discovers that Aim did nothing, he gets irate at her. He chooses to abandon her and sail to San Francisco by himself with the boat he made. Tragically, Richard's shaky boat doesn't travel that far, and he swims back to shore crushed. Aim giggles at his screw-up and says that the island is currently their home. She additionally uncovers that she knows he's been playing with his man Paul recently. Furious at Aim for making tomfoolery and keeping an eye on him, Richard tosses a coconut her way. I'm certain he needed Aim to toss her coconuts his way as well. Wink. After some volatile joke, the two end up battling genuinely. Richard returns home also, begins tossing Aim's things outside. He claims that he's the one that constructed the house, so he has the privilege to pick who lives in it. Eventually, Aim gets compelled to take cover in a close-by rock development. Damn, the young lady is in the canine house for once. The following day, Aim steps on a rockfish while searching for food. Richard doesn't see Aim that day, so he investigates her and discovers that she is debilitated because of the rockfish's toxic substance. He then takes her to the stone figure as she mentioned. Richard helps Aim through the backwoods and to the model's area. When there, he puts her down on the model's special stepped area. What's more, starts petitioning God for her recuperation. When Aim recuperates a couple of seconds after the fact, he no more wonders whether or not to communicate his inclinations toward her. Richard assists Aim with returning to shore, and they begin drawing sincerely nearer to one another. Their sentiment in the end arrives at an edge of boiling over. What's more, they at long last get close. As time passes quickly, the two become more joyful and never again keep down their closeness. Forlornness does astonishing things. One morning, Richard sees Aim regurgitating close the sea. At the point when he attempts to get cozy with her that night, she declines. Aim then, at that point, says that it harms at the point when they attempt to make it happen. And she doesn't have any idea why. She advises Richard to feel her stomach on the grounds that something is moving inside it. Richard places his hand on her stomach and understands she's coming clean. They are both dumbfounded about what's going on and assuming that Aim is alright. Therefore, having well-being education significant classes, particularly on remote locations. A while passes and Richard hears the once more drumming clamors. He summons the fortitude to explore and finds a gathering of savages. Subsequent to noticing their custom, Richard gets unnerved in the wake of seeing them penance one of their own to their deity. Terrified of the risk before him, Richard rapidly runs back to their home. When there, he hears Aim shouting in torment. She is going into work and, with Richard's assistance, brings forth a kid. Regardless of an outrageous absence of information about pregnancy, the two figure out how to convey their child. In a little while, the two take a stab at taking care of the child. With products of the soil, they crash and burn also. Can't help thinking about what's going on with the youngster. Luckily, M's maternal impulses kick in. Also, she unwittingly breastfeeds the child. Have these two never been presented to pets? From that point onward, Richard enlightens Aim regarding the savages and the custom he saw. Since they are detached from the rest of the world, the two are confounded about why individuals hurt one another. Richard then says that whatever occurs, he will safeguard their home. 10 minutes, 33 seconds time elapses once more, and the child develops up. They name the child Kid Paddy. What's more, it's to respect the man that saved them. He indeed even figures out how to swim in the sea with his folks. Goodness, that youngster can swim better compared to me. I can't swim by any stretch of the imagination. Coincidentally, the family presently lives on the island joyfully and invests the vast majority of their energy playing together. At some point, they see a boat somewhere far off. Unbeknownst to them, it has a place with Richard's father, Arthur. It appears to be he's been looking for his child and niece such an extremely long time. The two choose not to try flagging the boat in light of the fact that they concur that the island is presently their home. In the meantime, Arthur utilizes a telescope to have a nearer perspective on the mud-shrouded Richard Wattsmore. Aim. Sadly, the mud makes it hard to figure out what their identity is. So Arthur accepts it's not them. His boat keeps on cruising away from the island after that. He didn't remember to come by some way. Wattsmore inquire as to whether they've seen the children. A few days from that point forward, Aim chooses to visit the island where they resided with Paddy. Richard takes her there, alongside the child. While Richard searches for bananas, Aim finds their old stuff and starts thinking back. Aim scatters and neglects to see Paddy carrying noxious red berries to their boat. While hanging tight in the boat for Richard to return, Aim nods off. At the point when she awakens, they have floated away from the shore. Aim shouts to Richard. Also, he swims towards the boat. Sadly, a shark shows up and pursues Richard. Great one opportunity to have your period and toss the blood somewhere else to occupy the shark. Aim tosses their final paddle at the shark to purchase sufficient time for Richard. Understanding that the floes are pushing them from the island, they take a stab at rowing with their hands. Be that as it may, it doesn't work. With next to no means to paddle, the family gradually floats into the sea. Following a few days of floating, Richard furthermore, Aim awaken and find that Paddy is eating the toxic berries. A stressed Aim has a go at keeping the child conscious, yet she comes up short. Understanding that there is no expectation left, Richard and Emmeline likewise eat the berries. Not long after that, the two of them pass out, while embracing the child and one another. In a little while, one of Arthur's mariners detects the raft. They take their boat to have a more intensive look. At the point when they come to the vessel later, Arthur sees Richard, Emmeline, Wattsmore, child Paddy. He inquires as to whether they are dead. Wattsmore A mariner says they are basically dozing. Incidentally, the berries aren't noxious, all things considered. What's more, just put individuals to bed. The film closes later. Arthur's mariner group sheets the raft to safeguard Richard, Emmeline, and child Paddy. Subscribe for more videos like this.